Lan Wangji pondered for a moment, feeling something was amiss. He then said, "No. Uncle said only the destined one can touch the forehead ribbon. If the first person to untie the ribbon is the destined one, it means the first person who can untie my ribbon is the one who can untie my ribbon." This sounds a bit strange. At his young age, Lan Wangji didn't yet understand the concept of circular reasoning, but a vivid image of a puppy chasing its own tail appeared in his mind. Wei Wuxian was taken aback, surprised that this seemingly dull-witted boy was some smart, however. Hurriedly, Wei Wuxian replied, nonchalantly, turning the blame around. "What's strange? It's just that you're too foolish. I've explained it so clearly, yet you still don't get it. Besides, you didn't wear it properly." Lan Wangji instinctively touched his empty forehead and asked, "Did I really not wear it properly?" He had only recently learned how to wear it, and indeed lacked confidence. Wei Wuxian said, "Come on, let me help you put it on." Lan Wangji responded, "All right." Wei Wuxian stood behind him and placed the forehead ribbon around his forehead, looping it around the back of his head and tying a big bow. All done. For the rest of the day, wherever he went, Lan Wangji noticed that the adults looked at him strangely. Even the household servants praised him with smiling faces, saying, "Second young Master Lan looks so cute today." Lan Qiren, usually stern, also had an odd expression, and angrily asked him, "Who taught you to tie it like this?" Lan Wangji immediately knelt down in fear and said, "It wasn't me who tied it." Lan Qiren became even angrier. "Didn't I repeatedly remind you that only you are allowed to tie it? How can you let others touch it so casually? How can you be so disrespectful and lacking in self-respect?" Lan Qiren, facing Lan Qiren's stormy anger, smiled as he pulled Lan Wangji into his embrace and examined him closely. "Who tied this ribbon for you?" With a childish yet resolute tone, Lan Wangji replied, "It wasn't just anyone. It was my destined one." Lan Qiren's face turned pale with anger as he exclaimed, "What destined one? At such a young age, where is this destined one coming from?" Lan Qiren curiously asked, "Which family's little fairy did Zhan encounter? Is she cute?" Lan Wangji thought seriously for a moment before nodding. "Yes, cute." Lan Qiren angrily coughed, casting several warning glances at Lan Qiren while wondering which family's little troublemaker was already charming people at such a young age. Lan Wangji then recounted his entire encounter with Wei Wuxian in full detail. Lan Qiren listened in stunned silence, and afterward, he mentally went through all the children in the clan around that age, but couldn't match anyone. Which family did this child belong to? Smooth talking, full of cunning tricks, deceiving people with ease. Since when did the Lan clan produce such a little troublemaker? An ominous premonition slowly rose in his heart. His head began to ache just as he looked at Lan Wangji's exceptionally serious little face, which seemed already set on the matter. His temples started throbbing like a warning siren. Unable to help himself, he tugged at his beard and sternly warned, "That child is a little liar. From now on, you're not allowed to play with him, understand?" Lan Wangji seemed to be greatly shaken by this, sitting down dejectedly and sullenly, no longer saying a word. Each day, Wei Wuxian would sneak to Longdan Pavilion to feed Lan Wangji's little goldfish. He picked up the fish food and brought it to his nose, inhaling the salty aroma of the sea. Just then, he heard a rumbling sound. Touching his empty stomach, he realized he hadn't eaten for many days. After a moment's hesitation, he popped one of the pellets into his mouth. Madame Qingheng, who had been curiously observing from inside the house, was startled and called him from behind the door, waving at him with a smile. Seeing her friendly smile, Wei Wuxian didn't hesitate and walked over. As soon as he entered the house, Madame Qingheng brought out a box of delicate pastries. Wei Wuxian was amazed, and initially he politely took small bites. But the sugar crumbs from the sugar-coated round pastries fell off at the slightest touch, and Wei Wuxian couldn't catch them, causing them to scatter all over the floor. He quickly looked nervously at the exceptionally beautiful woman. Seeing that not only did she not scold him, but even guided him to the table and pushed the box of pastries in front of him. The child immediately felt at ease. He grabbed one in each hand and stuffed his mouth full, devouring them ravenously. Madame Qingheng was both worried and amused. She quickly ordered a servant to brew a pot of hot tea and brought it to his lips, feeding him a few sips. While gently patting his back, she told him to eat slowly to avoid choking, even mentioning that he could come by any time to have some pastries. Wei Wuxian was overjoyed, grinning widely, revealing a few white teeth and beaming a smile at her. At first he was a bit shy, but gradually he became more and more cheerful, his little face beaming with happiness. In the end, he thought that he should not enjoy the food alone, so he reached out, took a sugar-coated round pastry, and offered to feed it to Madame Qingheng. She then pulled Wei Wuxian into her arms, gazing at him attentively for a while. After that, she fetched a delicate little comb to tidy up his messy hair and used a white handkerchief to wipe away the sugar crumbs from the corners of his mouth. Lan Wangji's little goldfish grew bigger and bigger. After being transferred to the large fish tank, it started bullying the other small fish, swallowing 5 or 6 pellets of fish food on its own during feeding time. Helplessly, Lan Wangji had no choice but to scoop it back into the small tank. Everyone was quite astonished, and Lan Wangji himself was equally puzzled. One day, he arrived early at Longdan Pavilion and saw a small figure leaning in the cluster of gentian flowers, throwing 2 pellets of fish food to his little goldfish. Then joyfully, the figure ran towards the wooden door of the building and was led inside by Madame Qingheng, who held the small hand. Joyful laughter and chatter came from inside the house. Lan Wangji was stunned. He quietly walked to the edge of the window, lifted a small corner, and peeked inside. He hadn't looked for long before Madame Qingheng noticed him. Frightened, he jumped off the corridor, ready to escape. Madame Qingheng's voice called out from behind, "Ah, Zhan, don't run. Come inside." Lan Wangji hesitated, turning around to glance at the wooden door that was slightly ajar. Madame Qingheng smiled and said, "Come in. You won't be discovered." The door opened a bit more, revealing Wei Wuxian's head as he curiously asked, "Why doesn't he dare to come in?" Madame Qingheng patted his head and replied, "Ah, Zhan is shy." Lan Wangji remained motionless, but upon hearing this, his pale little face flushed red. "I can't go in," he said. Wei Wuxian shoved the snack he was holding into his mouth, wiped his small hands casually on his white clothes, then jumped out from behind the door. He walked up to Lan Wangji, took his hand, and led him forward like he was half the host, saying, "Come in. There are lots of tasty treats inside." "It's you." Lan Wangji was momentarily dazed and didn't think to break free. "You're the kid who tricked me last time." Wei Wuxian let out a contented burp and said without a trace of guilt, "How did I trick you? Which part did I lie about?" Lan Wangji replied, "You said you were from the Lan clan. You also said you were my destined person, and you tied my forehead ribbon wrong." Wei Wuxian responded, "But I am from the Lan clan, and I am your destined person." For some reason, when he said this, he didn't feel guilty at all. "Who said you couldn't tie the forehead ribbon like that? Also tell me after I tied it for you. Didn't a lot of people say you looked cute?" Lan Wangji was left speechless and, not paying attention, was pulled into the house. After a moment of silence, he finally blurted out, "You even fed my goldfish. You're not supposed to feed them. It is my goldfish." Wei Wuxian let go of his hand. "So stingy. What's the big deal about feeding it a little? You two, no quarreling." Madame Qingheng pulled the 2 little ones closer to her. She gently removed the forehead ribbon from Lan Wangji's head and placed each of their arms onto her lap. She then solemnly tied the ribbon around their hands. "Mother!" Lan Wangji exclaimed in surprise. Madame Qingheng patted his little face. "Ah, Zhan, ah, Ying, from now on you two will feed that little goldfish together, all right?" Wei Wuxian obediently replied, "All right." Lan Wangji protested, "Why should I? That's my goldfish." Wei Wuxian, with an air of entitlement, said, "What's yours is mine." Clearly spoiled by Madame Qingheng, he casually picked a pastry from the exquisite cloud-patterned snack box. Under Lan Wangji's speechless and intense gaze, he shamelessly ate it.